Good Glasgow Hirlock. Fáilte Arisha Tyra. There are currently over 5,000 people incarcerated in prisons for the innocent of Ireland today. It's direct provision I want to talk about. We believe it's the new 8th Amendment. It's the new industrial schools that have much shamed our state for many, many years. It's how we treated our most vulnerable, and do we not learn? When you hear the conditions at the centres, the idea of waiting indefinitely for such long periods is fairly chilling. One young woman, whom I heard from recently, referred to her sentence, and a sentence it is until she receives a positive or negative decision. Minister, I recently heard from people living in direct provision who are members of the LGBTI community and having serious problems due to their gender or sexual identities. This is the week of Pride, and I would believe it would be timely for you, Minister, to address the issues raised. The McMahon report is recommendations 215 about improving the lives of LGBTI people in direct provision, and the 3 subsequent implementation reports stated that successful changes had been made. However, Minister, there seems to be a vast amount of evidence to the contrary. There are many outstanding issues that have never been addressed. I wish to see clarity on these today. Heartbreakingly, I've heard that some people need to remain closeted in direct provision because they're sharing a room with strangers and nobody is monitoring who is put with whom. There's evidence of bullying exacerbated by the cramped and stressful conditions they're living in. They're fleeing because of, and in some cases solely of, sexual identity, yet they're put together with people who will bully them, who will intimidate them and who will ridicule them. The same people cannot access LGBTI spaces easily in that it's financial and logistics. Dublin obviously is the place for people to go, but people in rural areas have nowhere. It might seem of little significance to you or I, Minister, but those who have been persecuted and abused for who they are, as access to space that is safe and welcoming is vital for their physical and mental health. Unlike fleeing persecution because of your ethnicity, political activism, etc., it was highlighted that it is difficult to question ethically to prove your LGBTI-ness. One individual told a story of being asked what's his favourite Madonna song, as this was one of the criteria of passing a test of LGBTI-ness. It's dangerous, it's stereotypical, it's stigma, and its impacts on mental health. It's insensitive, to say the least. In the final implementation report, McMahon states that sensitivity training was underway. Can you give us a detailed update now, Minister, on where that is at? Considering that asylum applications are typically waiting around 20 months for the interview, the time they attend their substantive interview, many LGBT people experience added severe stress and mental health difficulties, and their capacity to engage with the asylum procedure is reduced. This is particularly problematic in the context of limited and no access to early legal advice. The Irish Refugee Council is doing phenomenal work on these issues, and I wish to put some of their recommendations to you, and I implore you we will take them seriously. In terms of the EU Reception Conditions Directive, the establishment of a formal vulnerability assessment mechanism to identify special reception needs should go beyond acute medical vulnerability and take in an individual's psychosocial, cultural and other accommodation needs, including the needs of LGBTI people. The IRC's concern is that the current basic health screening that asylum seekers may avail of does not capture the accommodation requirements of many applicants. I want to say hello to those listening from direct provision this morning, and they are hoping, Minister, that you will bring good news. Gura Mahagoth.
Thank you, Senator. Minister.
Thanks very much, Cahier. I'm here on behalf of the Minister for Justice and Equality, who sends his apologies. And I would like to thank the Senator for raising this important issue today. Direct provision is a system by which the Government offers support and services to persons seeking international protection in Ireland. Such persons are claiming protection on the basis that they are fleeing persecution on the basis of their religion, race, and also persecution on the basis of their sexual orientation. It is important to point out that a key element of the direct provision system is that services are provided to persons in that system directly by the responsible state department or agency. And I must say, I just need to reject out of hand words like incarceration and prison and open prison. They are not that. And I would ask colleagues not to use those inflammatory statements, to visit the direct provision centres and see the work that's going on there, but not to use those statements. On arrival in Ireland, each person seeking protection is offered full board accommodation by the Department of Justice and Equality. While there is no obligation on any person to accept this offer, I want to state very strongly that the question of any person's sexual orientation is not in any way a determining factor in whether the offer is made. The services offered to persons in the protection process and who are living in accommodation offered by the state are continually improving, and this includes supports and services to those in the LGBTI+ community. The Department of Justice and Equality is currently concluding the development of a set of standards which will become an intrinsic part of all future contracts. These standards will place a requirement on managers and frontline staff to receive training across a wide range of areas, including specific training in respect of possible needs of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender and/or intersex persons residing in accommodation centres. I must point out as well that the Ombudsman and Ombudsmen for Children also visit these centres and are available to listen to complaints from any people living there in those centres. The draft standards also require that information, posters and confidential contact details are provided to target specific groups, including the LGBTI community. In addition, talks and briefings are to be provided to staff and residents to promote dignity and respect to all persons, to all residents, including any LGBTI residents. These standards have been developed in full consultation with the NGO community and derive from the excellent work carried out by Dr Brian McMahon and his team in the report to the Government on improvement to the direct provision system. On behalf of the Minister, I can assure the House that persons who are members of the LGBTI+ community will receive every possible support from managers, staff and state agencies operating with their accommodation centre. And staff members of RIA visit these centres on a regular basis as well and are available to anybody who wants to consult with them, to meet with them, that have issues they want to discuss with them. So there are a number of areas where people can get help and support, and any issues that are brought to my attention or to the attention of any of the staff or officials with respect to bullying that the Senator mentioned or anything else, I want to know about these incidents, the staff want to know about them, the officials want to know about them, and they will be dealt with if we are told about them. But there are multiple ways in which people living in the centres, residents, can actually bring these matters to the attention of managers, staff of RIA, staff of the Department of Justice, and the Ombudsman and Ombudsman for Children. So I'd ask that that would happen, and these issues will be dealt with sensitively and appropriately once we know what they are. Thank you very much indeed.
Supplementary, Senator.
Minister, look, I know you care about these issues. I suppose it's apt that we raise these issues in what we consider Pride Week. There's nothing pride about direct provision, and I refute again. I will call it incarceration. I will not call it what you would like me to, which is to dilute it down as to what it really is. You're asking, Minister, that the people in direct provision who are LGBTI, that they become whistleblowers, and we know what happens in this country to whistleblowers. We need to be much more proactive in seeking out the issues as opposed to allowing vulnerable individuals, asking them to make the statement. We need to be proactive, and actually we are aware it goes on. We just need to respond to that very robustly, Minister. But it's fitting in this week of Pride that we need to take a radical approach to the great shame that is direct provision, and to treat our most vulnerable with integrity and respect. Gura Mahagut, Minister.
Minister.
Again, I reject out of hand the term incarceration or open prison. It's populist, it's inflammatory and it's wrong. And I would ask colleagues to please do not use those terms. I have visited almost all the direct provision centres in the country, some of them on a number of occasions, and I can say that that is completely wrong. And I would challenge colleagues to tell me what is the alternative. What would they like to see put in place? How would it work? The alternative would be that people would come in here looking for asylum and may end up on the streets. And that doesn't happen. Everybody who arrives here is offered accommodation, and nobody is without a bed, food, security and safety, who looks for asylum. We are speeding up the process with respect to the decisions being made. But getting back to the main topic here, there is no excuse for any person in our society to treat any other person without dignity and respect. This is not an alternative to anything. It is a prerequisite as to how we ourselves would like to be treated. I have listened very carefully to the comments made. And if anybody out there is aware of residents in the centres who are being treated unfairly or wrongly, please bring it to our attention. And I'm not just talking about people themselves who might be treated, but others who might know of the treatment, including the Senator. Please bring the details to our attention and we will look into it and deal with it. I cannot get into specific detailed responses at this point, obviously, but I can assure all members of the House I will ask the Minister to revert to any specific point raised. The points raised will be taken into account as the services provided to those in the LGBTI+ community continue to improve. I can assure the House we will work with relevant state agencies to ensure that compliance criteria and standards are finalised for accommodation centres and will continue to be improved. We will also support measures to ensure that centres are inclusive of LGBTI+ young people, with particular consideration of transgender issues, that homophobic and transphobic allegations made by refugee asylum seekers and anyone else in these centres are properly investigated and that support is focused to those who may have experienced or report homophobic or transphobic bullying or harassment in their country of origin. A project plan is now in place for the development of a national LGBTI strategy for publication by the end of this year. I am chairing the Strategy Oversight Committee, and this will include full consideration of all relevant issues for persons living in accommodation centres as well. And as we speak, officials from my department are meeting with officials from all other government departments to progress this LGBTI strategy for the country. That will include everybody. So, as the Senator has said, and I thank her for her remarks, I take these issues very, very seriously indeed. And I want to thank her for bringing this to our attention. I would ask her to please visit the centres, visit all of them. If there are issues that she is aware of or that comes to her attention, bring it to my attention. Thank you very much indeed.